welcome to this series that we are organizing about investment in Sweden. We are doing it together with the German-Swedish Chamber of Commerce and Business Sweden. We all know it has been a hard year the last year, and it's also been hard to travel and meet different business potential partners. And therefore, we would like with this program to highlight different regions in Sweden. So this will be a series and that we will focus on different regions in Sweden and their potential. And of course, we will also highlight different business sectors. And already today, we have over 15,000 foreign companies located in Sweden that create over 650,000 jobs. And we want to collaborate more. My name is Monica Enquist, and I'm head of the Business and Trade and Communication Department here at Embassy of Sweden in Berlin. Today, we're going to focus on the region Norrbotten, the northern Sweden, and we are so happy to have 6 panelists that will have a chat with us about Norrbotten, and the focus business sectors are energy, hydrogen, and space industry. And I'm so happy that we have the CAO for investment in Norrbotten, Lena Segerlund, and also her colleague, Mox Morgan, that is the investment manager in Invest in Norrbotten. And we are also happy to have 2 German companies active in Norrbotten today. We have Pamela Lundin, COO for Enercon Sweden. And we also have Josef Fleischmann, co-founder for ISAR Aerospace. And we also have Nini Lövgren, head of market services at the German-Swedish Chamber of Commerce. And the idea is that we talk for around 40 minutes, and at the end of the session, we will answer the questions we have got from you. So please do use the Q&A function below and write your questions, and I promise that we will come to them at the end of the session. And before we start the show, I would like to set the scene with a movie from Norrbotten. It's 3 minutes long, and here it is.
We are facing unprecedented challenges on a global scale. Time is running out. The time to act is now. Time to innovate for a better future. Demo North is about the innovations taking place today in one of the best testing areas in the world, testing large-scale sustainable solutions that are transforming how the world works and grows. Eliminating emissions, improving efficiencies, it's all happening here in the north of Sweden, where industry leaders come to accelerate innovation. Northern Sweden have Europe's lowest cost electricity coupled with the highest rates of reliability, all powered by 100% renewable sources, 365 days a year, allowing energy-intensive industries to seamlessly transition to sustainability. For more than 60 years, our world-leading test centers have been used to test performance and durability in a range of demanding conditions, because what works here in the Arctic will work anywhere. Here you'll also find world-leading research at the Luleå University of Technology, backed by decades of industrial innovation. This cluster of creative thinking is solving some of the world's biggest challenges, such as how to tap hydrogen's potential to create steel without any emissions. And we have the right environment to explore innovation, with vast areas of low-cost land for businesses to expand, as well as huge testing areas offering great security and privacy. That's why the North has become the leading test center for satellite launchers, rockets, and components destined for space. And did you know? Our people are famous for their problem-solving, can-do ways. That's why companies at the forefront of global innovation, such as NASA, have come away inspired by the solutions created in northern Sweden. Here in the north, sustainability and innovation are in our DNA. Here, where Arctic climate conditions can be challenging, we have survived and thrived by being adaptable, embracing innovation and also the natural environment. For more than 60 years, we have worked with local and international industry-leading companies to test and successfully demonstrate climate-smart innovations. Innovations for our sustainable future from leaders like Hybrid, Facebook, Sunpine, Northvolt, NASA, LKAB, and Vattenfall. Join us here in the north and shorten the time between climate-smart innovations and their commercialization. You bring the ideas, we transform them into a sustainable future. Welcome to Demo North.
Wow. Well, a lot of times when we talk with the Germans, they say that they think about snow, and some more snow when we talk about Norrbotten. But Lena, you are the CAO for Invest in Norrbotten, and it's obviously so much more. Could you share with us what would you say Norrbotten's advantages?
Yes, and thank you so much for the opportunity to present our business opportunities here today. Well, as you saw in this Demo North movie, the region of Norrbotten, and as you said, also the northernmost region in Sweden, is a great place to be in when fighting climate change through lowering the CO2 emissions and transforming the industry and making good business at the same time. So what we see here is we have both the business case and the climate case here in Norrbotten. And this is because of our already now 100% renewable electricity from hydro and from wind, our low cost electricity, but also our abundant resources of clean water. So our cold climate gives us the opportunity to test and demonstrate products and services in Arctic conditions. So I guess that's pretty much our advantages in a nutshell.
And if you look at your homepage, you have a slogan there saying, invest in a region ready to build and produce. We meet the demands and needs of the future. Sounds great. Would you like to tell us a little bit more?
Well, our region has a long history in delivering large-scale industrial operations and projects for the mining industry, for the forest and pulp and paper industry. But what's most important today is that we already have the renewables in our electricity grid, which means that we can start producing green steel, green hydrogen, and new materials for the future right now, without waiting for converting to renewables in the grid. So that's why we say that we are ready to build, and especially when it comes to future needs and the climate change.
I will come back to the energy sector, but first, can I ask you, already today you have a lot of German companies in Norrbotten?
Yes, absolutely, and Germany is Sweden's most important partner when it comes to trade and investment. And in our region, we have a large presence from German companies, especially related to automotive testing in cold climate conditions in particular. We have BMW, Daimler, and Volkswagen all present here in the region. And what this has resulted in is that we, or at least before the pandemic, we had direct flights between several cities in Germany and the region of Norrbotten. There are also a lot of collaboration within travel and tourism. And when we're looking into the future, we see very interesting opportunities within space and in green steel, for example.
Thank you, Lena. I would like to come back to you a little bit later, but I want to ask your colleague, Mox, you are the investment manager, and two of your focus areas are energy and hydrogen. Could you tell us why is there such an energy focus in Norrbotten? Lena has mentioned some of it, but could you deep into it, please?
Sure, Monica, and thank you for this opportunity, and thank you to everyone who's joined here. I think the best way to answer that energy question is if you were to think of Norrbotten as a separate country. Now, relax, this is not another Leave the EU campaign, this is not an exit, but if Norrbotten were a separate country, it has certain unique characteristics. Firstly, the sheer size of it. Norrbotten, if it were a country, would be bigger than Portugal. It would be bigger than Switzerland and Denmark combined, maybe with not so good chocolate, but doesn't matter. Chocolate is not our strength. It's in natural resources that Norrbotten has built its history. In the last century, 90% of Europe's iron ore came from the Norrbotten region. So we traditionally are very rich in natural resources, but going forward to the energy and hydrogen future that we are building, Norrbotten's advantages are what Lena mentioned: strengths in renewable electricity and in water. So to expand upon that, if Norrbotten were a separate country, it would be one of only 5 countries in the world that are run by renewable electricity 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Now, uniquely amongst that small group of 5 countries, how many of them have a surplus of renewable electricity that can go towards producing green hydrogen today? And the answer is there's really only one other. That is in Iceland, which has a little bit harder to get to than Norrbotten. But here in Norrbotten, we have a surplus of renewable electricity today. And that's really important because when we talk about producing green hydrogen to decarbonize our future economy, the 2 requirements are renewable electricity and water. And we have plenty of both. So in Norrbotten, as Lena mentioned, we have surplus available today, large quantities. In fact, Sweden is Europe's 2nd biggest electricity exporter at Europe's lowest prices. And the second requirement you need for producing hydrogen, of course, is water. It takes around 9 liters of water to produce 1 kilogram of hydrogen. And the Norrbotten region has some of the best freshwater resources anywhere in Europe.
Thank you. And you were mentioning hydrogen, and now when we have some listeners from Germany here, could you highlight some possibilities or opportunities you can see within this growing sector?
It's growing at a pace that is quite hard to fathom. It doesn't get a lot of attention, but if you add up the number of projects already announced for the Norrbotten region, it is over 20 gigawatts of electrolyzer capacity that will be coming online in the next few decades here. This will be one of the key hydrogen production centers of the world. But it is not just large scale, because we are looking across the chain from the production of hydrogen through its transportation, the uses across industry as a feedstock. We are already starting to see strong interest in exploring ties in the maritime sector, in aviation, in the chemicals industry, as well as in steel and other areas. So we welcome further talks with German partners in this area.
Thank you, Max. I will come back to you a little bit later in the program, but talking about energy, I would like to welcome Pamela Lundin at the German manufacturer of wind turbines, Enercon. You are the COO of Enercon Sweden. And before we start talking why you are active in Norrbotten, could you please share a little bit about Enercon and the company's journey?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yes, I will present to you Enercon worldwide and in Sweden in 2 minutes. So Enercon is a private company founded in 1984 in Aurich in Ostfriesland by a man named Alois Wobben. Alois Wobben, he managed to get Enercon to become one of the largest wind turbine manufacturers in the world. And one of the keys to this success is the gearless concept in the Enercon turbines. Simply is that we don't have a gearbox. Instead, we have a direct drive generator, which ensures a longer lifetime and less wear and tear. So really short technology introduction there. We're active in around 40 countries around the world, and we have installed more than 30,000 turbines so far. And in Sweden, I was lucky enough to be around in this business in the late 90s. and came in contact with Alois Svaben, who asked me if I wanted to start Enercon business in Sweden. And so I did. And we both agreed that Sweden has a great potential, but we also need patience. This will take time. And we are in a good way, but yes, it takes time. And we have so far installed a little bit more than 800 turbines, and we are 225 employees in Sweden for the moment, mainly done in sales, product planning, product execution, and of course, operation and maintenance of the turbines. Next, please. We are active all over Sweden, and we actually have our little head office in Malmö, which is in the very south of Sweden, and that is where I am located. But our flagship project since some years is definitely Marktbygden in Piteå in Norrbotten. And the picture you see here is, of course, from this wind farm. And if you ask me, this is infrastructure at its perfection. I think it is a lovely picture, but it's also a lovely landscape, Norrbotten. And I think also suitable for so many different projects where we can coexist with different interests. And yes, I think we come back to that in a second. So I stop here. Thank you.
Thank you. So your wind power farm outside Piteå or in the Piteå area will, upon completion, be one of the largest in Europe. And you mentioned a little bit, why did you choose to work towards the Norrbotten region? Why are you located in Norrbotten?
Why we're located in Norrbotten, because as you can see and you have heard, it is fantastic. And if you look at especially wind farm projects, it has a lot to offer. In this case, good wind conditions, but also the infrastructure around the project. We have the harbor in Piteå, which can handle all the goods. We have roads to the site, we can handle all the transports and trucks. And besides, we have two 400 kV power lines, you know, the really big power lines in the area, making sure to transport all the green electricity to the consumers. And I must also mention all the support from the locals we have had throughout the years, from the municipality not least, but also from other authorities, and I would say almost all residents in the area, even the Sami villages we have a good connection to. And we also try to do our best to engage local companies, and with them we find a lot of competence and the needed local knowledge. But coming back to your first question, if it is the largest, I think it is. I think we can read about large projects, not every day, but a few times per year at least. But with this size of Marktbygden, a capacity around 3,000 megawatts fully built out, yes, I would say it is probably the largest. 3,000 megawatts would equal somewhere to 700-800 turbines, and a production of around 8% of the total Swedish electricity consumption. So quite a lot. What I would like to mention though, when I now am representing Enercon here, that there are other players also in this wind farm cluster. We are one of the bigger ones, and we also own main part of the grid. So yes, but I just want to mention it.
Okay, and you said you had been located in Sweden or working in Sweden for over 20 years. For our German viewers interested to invest or collaborate in Sweden, do you have any advice for the entrepreneurs?
Yeah, 20 years in the business, I'm not sure makes me an expert, but from the projects I've seen during the years, my advice would be to have a mix of people in the team. The larger the projects, the more international they tend to be, and that is needed, but also the local competence and relations with all stakeholders, local stakeholders, so important to build up the trust and cooperation. And if I would give only one advice, is to have coffee with as many as possible, as often as possible. Swedish fika can solve a lot of things.
Swedish fika is very important.
Yes. And if you think about Sweden as with legislation and regulation, I think it is fairly straightforward and not too complicated, but time consuming. I would say final permit for a wind farm today, somewhere around 10 years to get it done. So yes, time consuming, but at least the legal is secure structure when you do get the decision, maybe the upside of it.
Okay, thank you, Pamela. And we also have Ninni with us from the Swedish-German Chamber of Commerce. You're an expert on investment promotion and has a long expertise working with German companies that are interested to work or collaborate in Sweden. And we talked a little bit with Pamela about an advice, but what would you say would be the first step? What should you think about as a German company that wants to either invest or work together with a Swedish project?
Yeah, thank you so much, Monica, for asking this question. And it was, of course, beautiful to see your journey, Pamela, there, because every company faces an individual situation, and that concerns both the background and possibility, goals and future steps, because you're in different businesses and different situations. But overall, we might see that one very important step is to start in the beginning, to reflect on yourself, your company identity, your ambitions and USPs. And then based on these findings, find the right match and finding the business opportunity that we were talking about earlier, because there's a good match in the structure between our countries. We have similar focus areas. And then when you look into the target market, but also the relevant target groups and the business partners, it's also time consuming. It's a good investment to start there, because in the end, business is done by individuals, and doing this together, anchored in the respective region and context. And speaking of the market, we're looking into Norrbotten. We've already heard from you, Mox, it could be our own country even. So from the German perspective, it's sometimes easy to merge the whole Nordic region. And I'm speaking about the whole Scandinavian market then. And that might be a bit of a risk, because from the German perspective, we're looking for the critical mass. But even though we're few up here in the north, we in selected business areas, and we've already heard that in the first beginning of this webinar, are absolute right match when you look into the clusters and the players on spot and the fantastic ecosystem with the great potential you have, and absolutely sufficient basis for successful business. And I think the presentation from Lena and Mox visualizes this in a brilliant way. But then, of course, it's also it's good to have the thorough planning in advance, getting informed about the market, the business preconditions. Finding the right support is crucial. Pamela, you mentioned that, taking a lot of coffee breaks in the Swedish way, because you have to see the market from an inside perspective with Swedish eyes. And I guess the fact that you as listeners today joined this webinar show that you are aware of this already. So having said this, it also means that you should be aware of the differences in doing business. It might sound as something of minor importance to look into the soft facts, but getting to know the Swedish mindset and maybe also the specific Norrbotten way, not just to adapt it, but using it in the smart way is really a good precondition to accelerate your market entry and to make it sustainable. Because you have to do it in a balanced way, and you have a mutual understanding also concerning the soft facts. So it should be a win-win, because that is the base for a long-time success. And we are maybe a bit more different than you might think between Sweden and Germany. So we have to do it together. And back to maybe the hard facts. Also, Pamela, you mentioned that legal tax regulations, you should of course reflect on them. And even though administrative work is quite straightforward here in Sweden, they are time consuming, as you mentioned, and you have to have a close look on that, of course, that you have that within your planning. And some of the processes, of course, also differ. So that is also true when you think of certifications, for example. So look into that as well. And I guess last but not least, we could hear that between the lines already. Be present, have these coffee breaks, and be patient. It takes time to get started on a new market. And you should be part of the region, of the network, of the social structure. Be there. Show that you have a sincere interest and want to start to build a long-lasting relationship with the players in place. So because sustainable and long-term success is built on a mutual trust and understanding, of course. And maybe the Swedish culture is even more based on personal trust than in Germany, so that makes it important. Be open to it, communicate it, and communicate with open and wide ears, of course. And I guess we already seen it today that the region of Norrbotten is fantastic. Once there, you will fall in love, and you will see that all the possibilities are in spot, and a lot of what we talk today will just fall into place quite naturally.
Thank you. So cluster, working together, and drinking a lot of coffee, right?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, I will come back to you later, Nini. I will now jump to outer space, and I hope I can do that together with you, Max, because Norrbotten is also famous for the first and only space base found in 1966. And that has paved the way for Sweden regarding climate research and, of course, space research. Can you tell us what makes Norrbotten so attractive for the space industry and for the space business?
Yes, I think there would be two main reasons for why Norrbotten is so attractive as a space investment destination. Those two reasons are geography and infrastructure. Firstly, on geography, let me break that into two parts. Geography, I would say, firstly, as I mentioned earlier, it's so large, the area. So here we have over 5,200 square kilometers of testing ground. This is critical right now when the industry is looking to research reusable rockets. We have enough space to physically test rockets at all stages. That is an important criteria. And we are one of the few areas, I think the only area in Europe that is able to offer testing grounds of this size. The second geographic factor is our latitude, of course. So much of the investment opportunities and growth in the space sector is around Earth observation satellites. And here, I'm not a scientist, definitely not a rocket scientist, but my understanding is the key, the favored orbits are the polar Earth orbit or the sun synchronous orbits. Both of these satellite orbits take them over the polar regions regularly. So what that means is businesses located here, space businesses located at the latitudes of Norrbotten, particularly our space center, have the highest communications times with the satellite, more time to exchange data. So this is very valuable. I think that some of our satellites are passing over the Norrbotten region around 10 to 12 times per day, over 1 hour of communication time there. So that's on the geographic side. On the infrastructure side, we of course have excellent data links to share that information wherever your business may be located in the world, but also how to process and house that data. There is a reason why so many data centers moved to this region. Of course, Norrbotten was the place where Facebook built its first data center outside the US. That is because of the green electricity, zero emissions, plus the climate leading to lower cooling costs. So overall, the carbon emissions disappear when you locate your data processing here. So those are the two reasons, geography and infrastructure.
Thank you. And coming back to the fast development of new space and small satellite paving the way for increasing downstream data services, can you tell us a little bit what kind of potential you see for collaboration?
Well, I think there's very strong opportunities for collaboration, and this will be where the activity takes place. As some of you may be aware, just late last year, the Swedish government announced a major investment in the S-range rocket facility in northern Norrbotten. This will now be Europe's only satellite launch base for small satellites. I believe the next nearest one you'd have to go to French Guinea and South America. So right on the doorstep here of Europe, we are now able to offer small satellite launches. Another reason for investors looking to the space sector to come and visit Norrbotten and explore the opportunities here?
Thank you. And let me remind everyone that is listening today that we will also have time for your questions. So please do use the Q&A function and write your question there. Okay, thank you, Max. Talking about space, I'm very happy to welcome Josef Fleischmann, co-founder of ISAR Aerospace, a space technology company that is located in Munich. And before we start talking about your collaboration and your activities in Norrbotten, could you please first tell us a little bit about your company?
Sure. First of all, thank you very much for giving me the chance to present our company today and our activities in Sweden. What we basically, our company is doing, as Max said, we're building microsat launchers that can transport small payloads into orbit, actually, for the first time ever out of European soil. So we're a very young company, only 3 years old, founded 2018 in Munich, actually, where I'm located right now. We were since then extremely successful, raised, I think, the second highest amount of private money ever for a European small space company. In total, over $100 million so far. And very important for us, end of 2019, we signed a cooperation contract with the Swedish Space Corporation, which operates in northern Norrbotten, Kiruna, one of the largest test facilities actually in the entire world, definitely the largest one in Europe. And since that point, we're building out our first site there in Sweden. So you can see an image here just from the beginning of this winter, one of the, in our opinion, most advanced rocket engine test sites in all of Europe as we speak of today. And Norrbotten proved to be the perfect place. So we have nowadays in Norrbotten about 10% of our total workforce in the company, equaling to about 15 people in Norrbotten and 150 in the entire company. So our plans actually to build out in the next few years are quite big. So S-range we want to definitely utilize to conduct further activities. First of all, we're speaking about rocket engine testing, where you just need a lot of open space. But even in the future, we think about, and Max already said it, reusability testing, launching, and so forth, where S-range is just the perfect place to be. Yes, so that was it from my side. I'm very happy afterwards to answer questions as well. What we're definitely also aiming for is collaboration on the research field, since we are considering ourselves a really high-tech company on the forefront actually of European research.
Okay, thank you. And before we move on, I'm happy to hear also, you said you had 10% of your workforce located there. Could you share, was it crash landing or a soft landing settle in Norrbotten?
Well, I would actually call it a fairly soft landing. And that is basically due to the massive help we have had in the beginning of setting up our company, our presence in Sweden. So our first employee was actually, well, he's been working for us now 1 year in Sweden. And we actually got him referred from the university, which is a super important partner for us locally. And since then we built it out, and I think a few times the personal relations have been mentioned, and this is actually something that prevented it from being a crash landing. It was rather a soft landing. So I'm a very happy man. I built up 2 companies already, one in Germany and one in Sweden. Sweden was definitely harder since I'm not even capable of speaking Swedish, but there was so much help, much more than even in Germany. So it was very soft, I have to say.
And I hope you like drinking coffee.
Well, actually, I'm not the coffee drinker, but not at all. Not even Sweden transformed me into being a coffee drinker. I'm very sorry, but I like fika.
Okay, well, then I can see why it worked out anyway. And you mentioned also a little bit about the collaborations you could see. Could we go in there a little bit more? Because we maybe have people now sitting and are interested to work in this business sector. What would you see? What kind of potential do you see here?
What we are definitely interested in, I said we are a high-tech company, which is definitely true. So rocket science is not easy, actually. In Norrbotten, we have a perfect playground, let's say, but we also need to build up a lot of know-how, where we have very good bases with LTU University, and actually all the experience that Swedish Space Corporation is bringing. In that field, we definitely want to increase know-how locally even more.
Thank you so much. And we have now talked a little bit with energy focus and space focus, but of course, if you're sitting here in Germany and are interested of the Norrbotten region, we also want to know about the quality of life. And Lena, could you share for the viewers, how is the quality of life in Norrbotten?
Yes, of course. Well, I guess in contrast to everything we have said earlier about cold weather, Arctic climate, dark winters, and so on, I think this is really a region full of contrast. As dark as it is in the winter, equally as bright it is in summer when the sun never sets, actually. I would like also to come back to what Joseph said about the university. I mean, even though we are a sparsely populated area, we have our world leading universities within their fields. We have great international presence at our university and collaborations. But we also have vibrant cities where you can experience shopping and culture. Of course, not in the same magnitude as for a metropolitan area in Germany, maybe, but there is a quality of life and work-life balance that we think is pretty interesting and something that people often describe. So maybe the great possibilities to do activities in your spare time without need to travel long distances, and if you want to experience the nature, for example. But I would also like to stress that if you wish to travel, if you want to live and work in Norrbotten and wish to travel to your friends and family or to experience other things, there are also great opportunities with flight connections to the rest of the world. Or as I said before, at least before the pandemic, we'll see what happens afterwards. This will change our area as well. So it's not only winter and darkness, it's very much light and lively cities here as well.
Thank you, Lena. And you also have an account on LinkedIn. Today we only had time to focus on some business sectors, but please follow them on LinkedIn and you will find out more interesting facts or events that you're organizing. And I would like to come back to you as well, Ninni. As you know, we are part of this team Sweden in Germany. And could you tell us a little bit now? You maybe have had members in your organization looking, and what could you help and support if they are interested to collaborate more with Sweden?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Monica. And it's of course always fantastic to see member companies doing that well, like Enercon and ISAR. Da geht mir das Herz auf. Grattis, Pamela und Josef. Fantastic. And exactly that is our ambition and goal at the Chamber, but also for all of us in Team Sweden, to get your companies started on the Swedish market in a suitable region, in an ecosystem that works like we see today, and of course to grow in a sustainable way, to stay in the region, to find the match we were talking before. Because as facilitator and as an operative partner for German-Swedish business, we focus on finding business opportunities where German and Swedish companies, but also competences can match and develop further. We heard that from you, Josef. It's also within R&D, of course, very important to get you finding each other. And I think that today's session shows very clearly that the area of energy, hydrogen, and also space, I mean, it's fantastic to see how the region of Norrbotten is that sharp in this area, is full of possibilities for even more German-Swedish collaboration. So, and if you look into the assistance and the concrete support, I would say that we are very pragmatic and result-oriented. We listen to each individual case and assist with tailor-made support around all questions concerning your market entry and business development in Sweden. The core, of course, is connected to get you connected with relevant contacts and also to assist in matching. That is both on an individual basis, so if you want to get in touch with a specific group of companies in Sweden, for example, but also through study trips, conferences, trade fairs. And we were talking about the pandemic already, Lena. We do this now, of course, in a digital way, but also we are looking forward to the more forums where we can meet in real again. So we can assist you in first market evaluation by conducting market analyses, or assist in tender processes might be of interest for you in the energy area, for example. And together we define right entry strategies and target groups and help you find relevant business partners and customers. But we also support you with, for example, legal services when you have to establish an own company in Sweden, find suitable personnel, employ them, handle your bookkeeping, payroll, environmental reporting, and so on. So it should be like an overall picture of your market involvement. And in the Chamber, we've done this for now 70 years with more than 60 experts. And we have, I think, a sincere understanding for your challenges. And we love to be at your side to facilitate, as we said before, a soft landing. And everything, of course, with the German-Swedish culture understanding. That is also very, very important. So doing that, we do that as part of the network of German chambers. You might know them, listening from the German companies, the IHKs, but also very closely together with the Team Sweden family, as you already mentioned, Monica.
Yes, good that you're highlighting that. So we are a great Team Sweden family with a lot of organizations, and Business Sweden, one of them, that also work with both the Swedish companies going to export, but also companies that want to invest in Sweden. And also, I know you have some concrete tips from other organizations and agencies we're working closely with. Vinnova has something that you can highlight now.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it's good to be even a bit more concrete for you listeners to see what you can get use of. I mean, we have not really touched the German-Swedish Innovation Partnership yet today. Maybe that is also of importance, just that you know that it exists. It was signed in 2017 between our countries, and we should promote all cooperation further, especially within the field of digitalization. Of course, it's a political agreement, but still it gives a good platform and also a mandate when you get into contact with Swedish partners or partners to be. So maybe that is an argument to use smartly when you look into the Swedish market. But also we have been looking a lot into the area of energy, both hydrogen, wind power, and so on. And there I would like to mention the Swedish-German Clean Tech platform. That is a program financed by the Swedish Energy Agency, Energimyndigheten. And this program, it enhances bilateral exchange and helps Swedish company mainly to enter the German market. But since there are no one-way streets in business promotion, it's also for interest for you from the German part. And I would like to highlight that we are right now preparing the Swedish Energy Pavilion with an advanced digital booth at the Hanover Fair that will take place in a digital format this year again, starting at the 12th of April. And we will be there as a big team from the Swedish Energy Agency, but also from the Chamber to meet you and to continue the dialogue if you're interested to start your business in northern Sweden, and also to match with the fantastic energy ecosystem that we have up there and in the rest of Sweden. So that is, of course, something that is more concrete. And also, Monica, you already mentioned Vinnova, and I think that would match perfectly well with that was what you talked about, Joseph, the possibilities to work together for R&D. Because we have right now an ongoing call offering public funding for joint R&D projects between Swedish and German small and medium-sized enterprises. That is for companies up to 499 employees, to be correct. And that is a call that Vinnova, the Swedish Innovation Energy, and the German SIM, that is part of the German Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Energy, the BMWE. They are in the lead, and it's a very interesting and advantageous program, and open until the 11th of May. So if that would be an opening for you, I guess that is worth mentioning as well.
Thank you, and we will put the information on our LinkedIn as well. And now it's the viewers' time, so I hope you have used the time and wrote a question on the Q&A function. If not, please do. And Pamela, is it okay I ask the first question to you? Do you look into projects for offshore wind farms in Sweden?
No, we don't. This has been the Enercon philosophy since years, that we see a huge potential on the land-based wind industry for some more years to come, for sure. I think it's great that Sweden is opening up more for the offshore business, and especially I would say in the southern part of Sweden, where we also need more production eventually, at least. I think it's a very good idea, but we as a company are not planning any offshore.
Okay, and Joseph, your micro launchers open up new opportunities in space. What industries do you expect to demand your services to send satellites into space?
I'm unsure if I understand the question correctly. So the industries profiting from the satellites in space is actually very wide. So a lot of industries will profit from it, starting from agriculture, starting from over safety, security, but also and definitely communication industries. The auto industries, think of self-driving cars. They will receive a huge boost from satellites in the future. Think about connectivity, so having internet streamed everywhere. There is a huge example of that already, the Starlink system of American company SpaceX. Yes, we expect a very wide amount of industries to profit from this.
Okay. And then I have one more question. Max, what opportunities do you see for production of hydrogen in Norrbotten for export to Germany? Is this related to offshore wind as well?
I would say there is tremendous untapped opportunity in production of hydrogen in Norrbotten for export to Germany. Specifically, if you look at the German National Hydrogen Strategy document from last year, it calls for supply of hydrogen from the Baltic Sea region. And the German hydrogen strategy makes available €2 billion to assist projects that are going to bring hydrogen to Germany. Now, so far, I believe that this investment money has gone to projects in Morocco and to West Africa. I know that sometimes we are rivals on the football field, but I would like to think that the relations between Sweden and Germany are close and that we offer as much stability as West Africa and Morocco for investors. So here is a huge pool of money and calls for exports from Norrbotten to Germany. I think that there is an opportunity there because unlike those regions, as we've mentioned in our presentations, we have renewable electricity available today. So whereas other regions first need to build renewable electricity production, then move to the electrolyzer and export of hydrogen, we jump directly to just one stage. Let's produce hydrogen today for export to Germany.
Thank you. And we saw the movie before, and today we focused on certain business sectors, but talking about Norrbotten is of course also interesting to hear. Do you have room for more battery investments like Northvolt? And Lena or Max?
Well, I can start. Yes, definitely. And I think the latest focus from the European Union now on the possibilities within raw materials and the importance of a European value chain starting with raw materials for the battery industry, for the electrification, and for our shift to a more climate neutral society is of very great interest. So as we can see Northvolt as a very good example of a company that see the opportunity and also seizes the opportunity with locating in an area where they can have the green energy to build their green batteries and supply the automotive industry, for example, with battery is a great example. And we have room for many more. I would say that the Nordic region as a whole is a very interesting space for the growing battery industry. So yes, we can host even more.
Thank you. And as I mentioned before, this is part of a new series. So we will do another event in May. So please do mark your calendars, May 18. And before we end, I also want to thank all the participants today. Thank you for highlighting your different sectors. And as we mentioned before, we couldn't go into all the sectors that they are working with in the region Norrbotten, but please don't hesitate to contact us all if you're interested to talk or work closer with the Team Sweden. And with that said, thank you all to the participants and for everyone that was listening today. And please follow us on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions to me or my great colleagues at Embassy of Sweden, don't hesitate to contact us. And here you have the contact information to invest in Norrbotten and Business Sweden and the German-Swedish Chamber of Commerce. And thank you, and I hope I see you May 18. Hej då.